A tsunami of breaking news has been like engulfing me and everyone else for the last 2 weeks. I mean, I guess we could say since President Trump, the attempted assassination attempt on President Trump took place. And then, of course, Biden, mysterious letter that said he was no longer going to be the candidate for the Democrats, that he is now supporting Kamala Harris, Kamala, because in Spanish, Kamala means how bad, the bad Harris, right? So the bad Harris is going to be running for the Democrats. Obama isn't publicly backing her yet, not yet, could change, could be listening to this, and he's decided to back her. But there's a lot of Democrats with good reason that do not want her to be the nominee or are just afraid of backing her because she is completely nutso. That's why. And she is a completely failed vice president. I mean, she has not done anything to solve the border crisis, of which she was the border czar. And if you just look back on her history, I don't care how many times she tries to talk ghetto, and act like she's part of the peeps, like she understands us. Like, my mom worked in a factory, Kamala. Your dad was a Marxist professor. Yes, he was. He was a Marxist professor. Just everybody go into the Stanford archives and you can find out about Kamala's father, who was a Marxist economist professor. So that's all they are. This is like the rise of the socialist Marxists, and they're just lying to everyone. And our nation is upside down. And of course, there are some other issues that are in the news that are probably not getting the attention that they deserve. And I want you to be aware of it, because I was just in El Salvador not too long ago. And I'm going to be heading back to El Salvador soon, as well as Mexico City and Costa Rica and hopefully Panama. I have a long list of travel dates ahead of me, but El Salvador is very important. In fact, all of Central America and South America and the whole entire Western Hemisphere is very important, including my mom's home, I guess, land of birth, Cuba, is very important, especially when you have China, Russia, and Iran basically crawling all over the place. The Belt and Road Initiative with China, which is expanding China's footprint all over our hemisphere. The failure of our own government to do the necessary job in building strong foreign relations and economic relations with our partners here in the hemisphere has made us now susceptible to these very dangerous adversaries. And we've seen what they've been doing. I was just in Washington, D.C. with the anti-trafficking campaign that we're doing. It was a 3-day anti-human trafficking campaign. We had Kaleido, which is a nonprofit working, Rosie Orozco, who is just, for me, one of the most incredible people in the world, who's fighting trafficking both in the United States and throughout the hemisphere and around the world, for that matter. We have CPAC's anti-trafficking organization, Border 911, which I am a part of. We were there representing and talking about what can we do to build stronger ties with our allies and with nations in our hemisphere. Because, folks, it's all about what is happening here at home, right? We have fentanyl pouring across our borders. Our children are dying. I was talking to one mayor from Mexico. I hope to bring him on the show. I plan on going into his province. By the way, I was almost killed in that state. I won't even mention it until he decides to come on the show. But when I was a very young journalist, I was covering human trafficking, actually, for the Daily Bulletin. And I was trying to get to this one particular area in his, I guess, in this state of Mexico. And I was chased down by, he told me it was called a monstro truck, which is these monster trucks that are all decked out, kind of like Mad Max. And I'll go into that story one day, I promise. I'm just teasing you with that right now. But I do plan on going back. But this is the thing. I was talking to him and he was saying, look, even in my town, I picked up, like, with the cops, like they raided They raided a location where this gang that was working for Sinaloa cartel had over 1,600 pounds of fentanyl pills. Think of the millions of dollars that was worth. More importantly, think of all the people that could have died from taking those pills because he said they were pure fentanyl. It is absolutely insane what is happening to our country. And guess where the precursor drugs come from? I know you're educated on this because you're listening to the Sarah Carter Show and you've heard Derek Maltz and everyone else talk about this in the past. China. This is a proxy war on us and our children. And our children are dying. So we have very few allies there that we can actually really trust right now. And one of them right now is President Nayyib Bukele. And I had an opportunity to meet with him. I had an opportunity to talk with him. I was with Ambassador Ron Johnson, with his wife, Alina Johnson, who still does enormous amount of work there. Jeff Caldwell, whose NGO is doing incredible work in Central America. I also hope to bring them all on the show one day. But I think everybody was a little taken aback when President Trump went after Bukele. And I'm going to go into more detail with this in a little bit. I don't know what's going on there. I'm being very, very honest with you. I was in Central America with Senator Mike Lee, Congressman Matt Gaetz, his lovely and wonderful wife, Ginger, all of the folks that were there. The King of Spain was there. Javier Milei from Argentina was there for the inauguration of Bukele. And really, Bukele is a mirror of what the rest of Central America and South America could be when it comes to arresting and taking into custody narco-terrorists. He used terrorism laws, and under those terrorism laws, which, you could disagree or agree, but I got to tell you, the people of El Salvador are living freely now. He used those terrorism laws to scoop up all of these gang members off the streets, these narco-terrorists that have been basically putting his country in a hostage crisis situation. That is what they described it as. Parents couldn't let their kids out the front door. You had gang members full of tats all over their faces, eyelids, foreheads, threatening poor women and children and fathers and sons, recruiting them into the gangs, basically blackmailing them, extorting their businesses. This is what life was like in El Salvador before Bukele. And I know it's hard for us to comprehend this because we've seen the influx of so many people from all over Central America, all over the world, as a matter of fact, because of Biden's wide open border policy, his massive wide open border policy, that's which he wants, which Kamala Harris was like, I think she was like a stooge. Like they just said, oh, we're going to make her the border czar. And then they just locked her in a room. Maybe they locked her in Biden's basement. And then she pops out now like, oh, I'm going to save the Democratic Party. No, she's not going to save anything. And she hasn't done anything to protect this nation from what was coming across that border and what is still coming across the border. Terrorists, gang members, rapists. Yes, everything President Trump said is true. But Bukele has put into custody over 85,000 El Salvadorians. He built a supermax prison, which I've seen with my own eyes. And these people are being held in like indefinite custody right now. There are some lower rung misdemeanors. And those people are actually working off their prison sentences in El Salvador. And I can tell you this. I talked to him one-on-one. Oh, Congressman Andy Biggs was just there actually again with Matt Gaetz as part of a CODEL to talk to Bukele about this. And I could tell you, looking into the eyes of this president, how serious he was, how much he wants to cooperate with the United States, how much respect he has for President Trump and strong border policies. And he also said, without any doubt in my mind, that he was telling the truth. I do not want the people of El Salvador leaving El Salvador to go to the United States because we need them here. We need those workers here. We need to rebuild our nation. If anyone is sending the bad guys to the United States, I would first look at Venezuela, I would look at Lula in Brazil. I would look at enemies that are on the rise throughout the region. I would say I'm having a very difficult time with Colombia now because we're seeing a lot of leftist regimes. And there's a lot of confusion. Our State Department, even in Guatemala right now, it went from, and I spent a lot of time in Guatemala, from a conservative leader like Jimmy Morales, a conservative like President Giammattei, and now it's this leftist who, off the top of my head right now, for some reason, I can't remember his name, which is very funny. But you guys don't need to know that. You just need to know that he's a big leftist. But our State Department is backing, more so than not, the leftist regimes. And then targeting people like Bolsonaro in Brazil. Or, I remember when Giammattei was president, he had a very difficult time with the United States State Department. I think there are also people trying to sabotage relationships with conservative leaders there. Do I know why President Trump said that? No, I don't. Is he privy to more information than me? Maybe so. But I was in El Salvador and I saw with my own eyes the incredible success of what has happened to that country. And when a nation is successful in our hemisphere, it not only benefits them, it benefits us because it stops the flow. It stops the flow. Unlike his counterparts in the region, Bukele has destroyed the cartels. He's grown the economy and actually supported American allies like Israel openly. This is why I was so surprised when Trump criticized Bukele during his RNC speech, as I am 100% on the Trump train. 100%. But we have to be aware of what is happening in our hemisphere in order to protect us, protect our children, protect our nation from the vile monsters that are taking advantage of nations that are definitely skewed to the left, that are allowing human traffickers to utilize the border at numbers we have never seen before. Numbers we have never seen before. Right now, over 520,000. I want you to listen to this. 520,000 unaccompanied minors have entered the United States since President Biden has come into office. Think about that. Roughly 100,000 of those minors we can't even find. And that's according to new statistics. The other ones could be living with people that aren't even their relatives. It could be sold into the sex trade. They could be working in factories like we saw in the New York Times. Kids as young as 12 years old, 13, 14, 15. God only knows where they're at. And that's just the children I'm talking about being trafficked into the United States, not even the adults. So right now there's a bit of a backlash because the Latin community and people who have seen the incredible, transformation that Bukele has done in his country are starting to speak up. And we need to get that Hispanic vote. The Republicans need that. Absolutely. It's the fastest growing demographic in America. Absolutely very, very important that we are right on the money when it comes to dealing with the American Hispanic community, which, by the way, the majority of which want a secure border and that border shut down. The majority of them do not want to see people coming into this country from places like El Salvador, that are, and Guatemala and Honduras and Afghanistan and, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, anywhere on the planet. They don't want to see our borders flooded with people that are going to present a danger to them and their children, and also be a problem for them on the economic side of things. So we've got to be very careful how we handle the Spanish population. I wrote an article about this on my X, and on today's show, I want to walk you through the piece. I want to share what everyone is saying about Trump's comment and Bukele's reaction. I think this is going to be very important because this is where diplomacy is in full play. It is pretty amazing and pretty incredible what can happen, even when two world leaders are are trying to figure each other out and trying to understand what is going on. But first, Goldco. Do you know that experts call gold the everything hedge? Gold goes far beyond hedging against inflation or the stock market. It gives you peace of mind that your money is invested in something that's real, tangible value. That's why gold just hit another record high, and central banks keep buying gold at a record pace. That's also why I've partnered with the top-rated company, Goldco. Listen to their current offer. Get 10% instant match and free bonus silver with a qualified account. Plus, visit Sara, SARA-likesgold.com to qualify for a free 1-ounce silver Ronald Reagan coin. And I don't know if you guys were listening to Sean Hannity last week, but I was doing the Goldco commercial with him, and we were having just way too much fun. I feel very blessed that Goldco is a sponsor of the show, and we're able to give you guys the first, hand look at what's going on behind the scenes with so many stories, not only in Washington, D.C., but across the country and around the world. So remember to diversify your money and time-tested safe haven assets, physical gold and silver. Today, Goldco is offering up to 10% instant match and free bonus silver with a qualified account. Plus, visit Sara, SARA-likesgold.com to qualify for a free 1-ounce silver Ronald Reagan coin. That's Sara, SARA-likesgold.com, or call 855-823-GOLD, SARA-likesgold.com, or call 855-823-GOLD. So I was in El Salvador not too long ago. I had gone there for the inauguration on June 1st of President Nayyib Bukele. This will be a second term as president of the beautiful nation of El Salvador, which was always beautiful, but never that safe. I'm going to tell you. I had seen a bit of that transformation myself because I'd gone to El Salvador previously to actually interview a smuggler that was moving and trafficking women and children into the United States. And this smuggler agreed to talk to me because he was terrified of what was happening to the children. The smuggler was actually on Sean Hannity's show, and I did have some of that on a previous podcast we did for thedarkwars.com, which is a full investigative piece on the border crisis. The smuggler basically informed me that the children that he was moving, some of them were being taken by the drug cartels in Mexico. And these cartels and these human traffickers were selling some of these children to people that were willing to pay a high price for organ harvesting. And it was so sick, in his opinion, that he could not actually live with what he had done. So not only did this person speak to me, but I heard this person also spoke to others that would be investigating such an atrocity as this overseas. And hopefully, hopefully some of the people that were committing these atrocities have been arrested. But I think it's important that you know that human trafficking is very real, and that we need nations like El Salvador, we need leaders like Nayyib Bukele to work with us to put a stop to it. We need leaders in Guatemala. We need leaders across the globe to work together. We need to work together with them, because the most important thing is, and I want you all to think about this, is that not only the most important thing is to save children's lives, but we also have to take a responsibility that our nation is also purchasing people, right? And utilizing people for cheap labor. And that's something that we have to live with. So this is kind of everybody's responsibility. So it's always been my goal to see the Western Hemisphere be richer, be better, be stronger, so that we don't have people coming into this country, thousands a day, tens of thousands a day, millions, 10 million, over the last 4 years or the last 3.5 years under President Joe Biden. We need to build a stronger Western Hemisphere. And that was the reason why I traveled to El Salvador. I want to build those kind of relations. I was there with Ambassador Ron Johnson. I had the opportunity to sit down and actually hang out with Nayyib Bukele, who, by the way, is very cool. And his family is just beautiful. And he is just very cash. He's not a person that puts on a lot of airs. He's very straightforward. And he absolutely believes in rule of law. Not as a dictator, but as a leader. He absolutely believes in building strong relations. He believes that, El Salvador should be making its own money and building on that relationship with the United States, economic relationship, so that it's strong and prosperous, and so that El Salvadorians actually stay in El Salvador. And that's what he's been doing. And that's exactly what he's been doing. Senator Mike Lee was there. He was able to see that for himself as well. And he's had some very nice little, X posts out there that have been very, very, diplomatic, very well focused on, as well as Matt Gaetz focus. And by the way, Don Jr. was there. Don Jr. was there, President Trump's son. Kimberly Guilfoyle was there. There were just a lot of people that attended this event. Matt Schlapp, Mercedes Schlapp were there from CPAC. So there were a lot of Americans invited, a lot of diplomats invited from all over the world. I saw, people from Saudi Arabia. The Prince of Saudi Arabia was in the diplomatic dinner. The, like I said, the King of Spain, Javier Milei was incredible. His hair, by the way, is crazy awesome. It's like, I don't know how he keeps it like that. It's kind of like a rock and roll Einstein. I don't even know. But everybody was kind of there. Everybody was there. Everybody was watching. Everybody has been rooting for Bukele to continue building a stronger base and stronger relations with the United States. And then this is what happened in Trump's speech that everyone's talking about. So you guys can take a listen.
Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up while crime statistics all over the world are going down because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country, a certain country. And I happen to like the president of that country very much, but he's been getting great publicity because he's a wonderful shepherd of the country. He says how well the country's doing because their crime rate is down. And he said he's training all of these rough people. They're rough. He's training them. And I've been reading about this for 2 years. I think, oh, that's wonderful. Let's take a look at it. But then I realized he's not training them. He's sending all of his criminals, his drug dealers, his people that are in jails. He's sending them all to the United States. And he's different in that he doesn't say that. He's trying to convince everybody what a wonderful job he does in running the country. Well, he doesn't do a wonderful job. And by the way, if I ran one of the countries, many countries from all over, I would be worse than any of them. I would have had the place totally emptied out already.
So there's a lot of concern that maybe, whoever's advising President Trump isn't someone that is aware of what is happening, or whoever told him that isn't aware of what is actually happening in El Salvador. I have no idea. I'm telling you right now, I have no idea. I'm going to tell you straight up that I am 100% on Trump's side. Maybe he has information that I am not aware of. Maybe he has information that I am not aware of. But one of the things that I think is so important in our relationship with Central America and South America, in particular, Central America, and with someone like Nayyib Bukele, is that in the United States, especially under the Biden administration, they turned their back on Bukele. And like many people in the Central American regions, like from Mexico all the way to El Salvador or even Nicaragua, and even if you look across, all of South America, there is one player that is coming with open arms and open pocketbooks every second we turn our back on a leader in the region, and that is China. And China is taking advantage of our failed foreign policy in those regions. Our relationships with those foreign leaders are so vital, folks, so vital. It plays into everything that happens in our country, from the drugs that come across the border and the human trafficking and our relationships with those nations in an effort to stop adversaries like China and Russia from taking advantage of us, and Iran as well. It is the reason why under the Biden administration, we've seen an onslaught of terrorists come into this country. And we don't even know how many. We could say, over 400. Yes, because since the beginning of the Biden administration, an onslaught of terrorism. Yeah, we've got 400 connected people to terrorism that we've picked up at the border. We have over 2 million. I want you to think about this. Known gotaways. And if only 10%, and these are the people that are paying all the money to sneak into this country, to sneak into this country without being known. And if only 10% of them are bad guys or bad people, that's 200,000 really bad people. That's a lot of bad people. And that's if it's only 10%. I would say anybody who's willing to pay a ton of money and sneak in between the ports and not want to be captured or turn themselves into Border Patrol. I mean, look, people are just walking up to Border Patrol and saying, hey, I'm here. And they're trying to get in. And by the way, right now, there is a huge number of people trying to get in because they're terrified Trump and Tom Homan and people like me and stuff are going to come in and we're going to just shut down the border. You know? They want to get in here before that. They're praying for Kamala Harris. They are praying for her. But someone like Nayyib Bukele, he's locked people up. He has literally put over 85,000 El Salvadorian people into prison. Now, are there people from El Salvador still trying to get into the United States? Yes, absolutely. Are they trying to get in here because they're terrified of being locked up in one of Bukele's prison? Yes, absolutely. Should we have the border shut down so that they cannot get in here? Yes, absolutely. Why do you think they're coming into the border? You know why they're coming in? Because Biden is allowing them to. Because they are more afraid of Bukele than they are of Biden. Because they know Biden will not punish them. They know that they're just going to come in here scot-free. They won't be sent back. They won't be held accountable. There's no bed space. Just let them go. Look at what happened to so many beautiful people in our country targeted by these criminals. It's horrible what we've seen. But we cannot fix this problem alone. It will be impossible to fix it alone. You know, as I pointed out in the article, as I talked about this situation to you here right now and trying to get you to understand why we have to have leaders like Bukele who are willing to just use terrorism laws. I mean, I want Mexico to do that. I would love for Mexico to do that, to use terror laws to capture their drug cartels. I would love for us. I know some people don't agree with me on this. Some people that are my friends don't agree with me on this. But the more I look at it, the more I think we need to designate the cartels as terrorists. They need to be afraid of us. We need to seize their bank accounts. We need to designate them as terrorists so that we can utilize all the tools possible to target them and remove them, some of them from the face of the earth. That's what we really need to do. We need to do that. We cannot do this successfully, though, without the cooperation of world leaders. Senator Mike Lee, Matt Gaetz, and others, you know, also were a little bit confused about what's going on here. At least they went ahead and they posted. I maybe they're not as confused as I am, but they went ahead and they posted, as I did, a column. They posted on X, you know, various comments. Senator Lee, I guess, was the one that said he, you know, was a little bit confused, that he didn't understand what was going on with Trump's comments. But Lee posted on X on Sunday, El Salvador is safe from violent gangs under the leadership of Bukele. The senator was responding to the follower in another post saying, I don't understand. I wonder if someone's giving him bad advice based on incorrect information, in reference to Trump's criticism. Congressman Matt Gaetz told me late Friday night, this was from my column, that after he spoke at the Republican National Convention and just before departing on a congressional delegation to El Salvador, that President Bukele has led a remarkable transformation in El Salvador, and President Trump will now rescue America from decline. I absolutely believe that. President Bukele, for the most part, and I've been talking to people behind the scenes, of course, has stayed out of this. He does not want to get in a public battle, of course. He has a lot of respect for President Trump. And I think President Trump said in the beginning, you know, it's a leader that he liked, right? This is a leader that he liked. Bukele responded by tweeting that he is going to take the high road. And I believe that, you know, he is holding an olive branch and out to President Trump and saying, hey, look, I'm going to hold out this olive branch. I know that you are, like me, most concerned about your country. And both leaders want their nations to be successful. They want to put their nations first. And I believe both leaders are very similar in those respects. And both leaders certainly, I believe, diplomatically want to find a way to make it happen together. And I think that is the most important thing. And I think it says a lot about leadership when somebody says, I'm taking the high road, and they're just going to wait it out, and they're going to find a moment where they can actually sit down, mano a mano, and talk it out and figure out like, what is the best way to solve this crisis for our nations? What is the best thing that El Salvador can do for the United States in an effort to mitigate the flow of people from their nation into the U.S.? And what can the U.S. do in an effort to help them do that? I think the first step that President Trump is going to take is shutting down the U.S. southern border, just shutting it down. And from there, we can figure things out. But first and foremost is our national security. Folks, I talk to you about my pillow all the time. My dogs love their dog beds. And by the way, I ran into Mike Lindell when I was at the RNC in Milwaukee, and he was looking great. He was eating dinner with his wife, and he was so cordial and kind and still fighting for this nation day after day after day, right? This is what Mike Lindell does. And he believes in our country. He believes in American products, and he believes in American workers. And he really, really needs your support. Everybody's been going after him. So I want you to go to mypillow.com. Mypillow.com. I want you to get the best dog beds on the market. Macy Daisy Buttercup sleeping underneath my desk right now, snoring on her MyPillow bed. Go to mypillow.com/Carter and enter promo code Carter, CARTER. That's mypillow.com/Carter to get the MyPillow dog bed for, guess what, as low as $25. The inner bed is removable, and the zippered cover is washable and dryable. Both cover and insert can be washed cold or warm on a regular cycle. Give your dog great comfort. Visit mypillow.com/Carter and enter code Carter. Be sure to use the promo code Carter to get $25 sale price. Again, mypillow.com/Carter and enter the promo code Carter, CARTER, to get the $25 sale price on dog beds. What do you guys make of all of this crazy news and all of the information that's flowing at you 24/7? And God, thank God. I mean, that President Trump survived that assassination attempt. We all have a short amount of time before the November elections, and it's going to be up to every single one of us to bring this through to the finish line, to put President Trump in office and have someone there that is going to fight for our nation and fight for our principles and our values. Let me know what you think about all of this with the comments down below. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. We really appreciate it. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our nation. God bless President Trump. And God bless the great state of Texas.